Oh, thank you, Liz. That's very kind. Well, I'm going to echo Liz's comments and say thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I appreciate that we all have very busy lives. So wherever you're from and joining, thank you very much for making the effort. The whole idea about these women's wellness webinars are to cover a number of topics. And as Liz says, you know, today is about getting started and staying active and how we continue doing that. And we've got some fantastic guest speakers that I'll introduce in just a minute. But just to whet your appetite, there are 5 webinars already set up for next year with varying numbers of speakers, and also some coffee chats as well, which are less formal. And so, as you can see, there's a range of topics. The whole idea behind this, obviously, I had my transplant when I was 19, and I'm now at the grand old age of 54. And so I've gone through varying issues and topics, and most of them that are sat down there on the list. And in this age, we are lucky that we have the accessibility to find out bits and pieces, but there's nothing better than talking to people who've been through it. And the World Transplant Games Federation were very kind, took this idea on, and then hopefully we can broaden these subjects out and answer questions for people who may be a little worried about things and can't find answers online, would like to speak to people who've been through it. Not just myself, there, you know, loads of people out there. So the pregnancy one we had a few months ago was very successful and opened it lots of topics of conversation, lots of questions, and it was really positive. It's just, you know, it's great to see that. So looking forward to the ones next year. And if you have any other ideas, please get in contact, because these are all things that are just coming off the top of my head and talking with Liz and Kim. But, you know, I don't know them all. So if there's something you think that I'm missing, I would really, really appreciate your input. So thank you very much. Okay, well, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers for tonight. We have Dr. Elaine Duncan, Dr. Rachele Nateri, and Anna Leishman. Ladies, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for your time, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing what you have to say. So from there, I'm going to pass on to Dr. Elaine Duncan, who's going to introduce her team, and I'm going to put my microphone on mute. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I repeat the warm welcome that both Liz's have extended to you. And I just want to share with you my underlying motivation for doing something like this. And that is that I have actually been married to a transplant recipient now we've been together for 15 years. And part and parcel of being in that, you know, personal domain in my life has helped me see the value of going to the transplant games, the value of trying to keep us moving in any way we can. And so I felt it important to share, in case anyone doesn't know here who's joining us today, that is part of my sort of, you know, personal background and meaning for coming here. The other is that over the years I've been part of the transplant community and embraced by it. I noticed a need for more psychological support post-transplant to inform the process of trying to be active, perhaps for the first time in your life, and or continuing to be, and going right through then potentially to be very committed to a particular sport and indeed competing. So hopefully tonight's content is actually speaking to that broad spectrum. I've known Rachele and Anna for several years now as part of the process of them training in the doctorate programme in sport and exercise at Glasgow Caledonian University. And I am going to hand over to Rachele first, because she will present a few items for your thought reflection. Sorry, it's Anna, I think, first. I think it's that way around. I think it's Anna first, actually. And then it will be Rachele. And each presenter will give you a flavour of why they are doing what they're doing tonight as well. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Anna. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna, and first of all I'd just like to thank you for quite a warm welcome here today, and to thank you for attending as well. I think kind of as Elaine touched upon there, my kind of background in being here today is really just kind of learning from some of her experiences, and I guess just kind of getting on board with her experiences with the transplant community and getting kind of involved. So over the summer, I had the opportunity to provide some support at the British Transplant Games. So that was kind of one-to-one support online. And I'm looking forward to just kind of being here today, spending a bit of time with you all, and really just having hopefully a bit of a conversation about, why physical activity can be beneficial, and really thinking about how we can both kind of start moving and just keep moving as well, because I think that's really important for everyone, for all kind of walks of life. But we can also think about that in particular in relation to kind of as women, and for yourselves being within the transplant community, what that might look like. So I think as again was touched upon earlier, we encourage you to interact as much as you would like using the chat during this webinar, and there'll be some specific prompts for that as well. And we're aiming for at least 15 minutes, hopefully even a bit more time at the end, to have a bit of a conversation about everything we spoke about today as well. So I think to really kick off from there then, I'm just going to start off with a bit of an overview of some of the benefits that being physically active can have. In particular, some of the key benefits for kind of transplant recipients being shown on the graphic that you can hopefully see there on the screen. So when we're thinking about kind of activity in particular, we're going to have that focus on that kind of light to moderate physical activity. So that might be kind of going on a walk. I myself would just kind of go on a walk with the dogs, or maybe cycling, or really just any kind of light physical movement that you can do within the house. And these activities can really be beneficial for anyone, but in terms of kind of post-transplant treatment, we can think about there can be risk of kind of developing circulatory problems, and also some risks in terms of weight gain and high cholesterol levels due to the immunosuppressive therapy, and again things like increases of appetite as well due to improved health after transplantation. So looking at the graphic here in a bit more detail, one of the things that's highlighted on there is the reduced inflammation and improved cardiovascular functioning being one of the key benefits. So within the transplant community, there's the kind of high risk of other health issues alongside transplants, such as cardiac events. So the boosting of immunosuppression is an important byproduct of being more active. So kind of really being more active, it's, I think great as an individual thing, but it's also really part of that kind of whole lifestyle approach, which is related to improved adherence to medication regimes and that boost of immune function as well. So something else that I think is highlighted on that graphic as well, and that can be particularly important for women, is the increase in bone density that you can get through engaging in physical activity. So as women kind of go through various developmental milestones, so from puberty going through kind of menopause into these phases, we become more susceptible to osteoporosis, which is characterised by weakened brittle bones. So there's quite a few different things there, but those are a couple of the key kind of takeaway ones. And I think in addition as well, I wanted to highlight some kind of other benefits. So there can also be, I guess, more kind of general overall well-being benefits. So kind of improving your overall lifestyle, building and enhancing kind of social relationships, so through engaging in activity with others. And I think there's also, along with your physical health, you have that improvement in mental sharpness, and there's a lot of links between physical well-being and emotional well-being, which we could spend a lot of time covering, but that's just to give that brief kind of overview there. So I think, kind of going on from that, I'm going to pass on to Rachele, who's going to give a brief introduction to themselves and begin to look a bit more at your kind of individual physical activity journey.
Thank you, Anna. Yes, so now going into the next slide, I would like, first to introduce briefly myself. I'm a sports psychologist. I currently work in private practice and in academia as well. I'm here today as I had an amazing experience at the World Transplant Games in 2023 in Coventry, being part of a broader team that was supporting the athletes during the games, and had an amazing experience learning about their journeys, the community, and the barriers that they face as well. Since then, I've kept supporting some athletes that are part of the transplant community, and I'm really happy to be here today to contribute and hear your experiences as well. So as Anna said, now we would like to try and explore a bit more what is your journey within getting physically active or potentially staying physically active based on where you're at the moment. So we would like to use this activity to try and understand where do you feel you're at in your journey, and maybe do a bit of a reflective task here, imagining this pirate ship that you can see in front of you, potentially going towards active land if you want, or a land where movement is present. And looking at the picture, try to see what is the number that you identify with more, and why. And if you feel comfortable to share that in the chat, we can reflect on that together as well. But this would be a prompt that will help you also potentially start reflecting on some of the topics that we will discuss at the end as well. So I see a 4, a 20, a 19 in the chat. So the 4 one is the one hanging on at the top with one hand. I wonder what is that you see in that image, Liz. And then I can see a 20, which is the one just sitting in the small island on a side, probably not too bothered about whoever is going towards active land, which is really interesting. Then we have the 19 that is swimming quite far from the pirate ship as well. Then we have 14. I can see a lot of comments coming in the chat. I probably won't be able to keep up with all of that, but thank you for start sharing it. We see number 12, long jump is my favorite sport at the games. Okay. Try to identify number 12. Okay, so you'll be wanting to jump on the ship. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much for engaging in this activity. Hopefully with some of the reflections based on where you are in your journey, you'll be able to contextualize a bit more the content of the webinar as well, and start reflecting on what are the things that you may do to continue this journey, whether there is staying where you are, so maintaining whatever behavior you are currently doing, or moving forward to potentially another behavior that you would like to change. So looking at the next slide, and keeping those reflections in mind, I would like to briefly explain the 5 stages of change. So as you can see in this slide, there are 5 main stages, and then there is an additional one that is there that I'll explain as well. These are stages that try to describe how we go about reaching a change. So the first one is pre-contemplation, is the first stage, and it kind of reveals some sort of lack of motivation, if you want, potentially even a lack of awareness in not understanding fully the need for a change, maybe contemplating to try and explore potentially something, but there is still a bit of being unclear if that behavior would be beneficial or not. The one that you see, potentially the person that was in the island in the previous slide, is maybe in that phase. There is something there in the background that is happening, but they are not too bothered about it. The contemplation phase, which is the second stage of change, is more looking at raising that awareness, so looking at what would that mean to change that behavior for them, and start understanding what would the benefit would be, and if it's something that they would like to engage in or not. The following stage is preparation, so planning to actually try and engage in that behavior. What are the things that need done before starting the action stage? Is there anything that needs to be considered? Anything that can potentially cause any risk in whatever action we want to achieve? So thinking about the planning to be more physically active, for example, if there is not that phase there and there is a jump into action, there may be a risk of potentially not engaging in that behavior fully, or not fully understand what is the meaning for us to jump in that behavior. The action phase is the actual change. So when we start changing habits and changing behavior, and is that behavior that is bringing the benefits back. If we think about starting being physically active, let's say, for example, contemplating going for a walk every day. When we start walking, we would be in that stage of action, and we will start feeling the benefits and engaging, especially in the short term, in that behavior as well. Then there is the maintenance phase, which is that phase that will allow to stay in their behavior and be consistent in their behavior, and having more long-term benefits, both in terms of well-being, potentially the mental health benefits of physical activity in this case, social benefits as well. And it's that phase where we need to remind ourselves that this behavior is important for us and why we're doing it, and that will help us keep that motivation up as well. The last one that is there is the relapse, and it can happen that, or most likely happen, as we know from research as well, that at times that behavior won't be maintained, and that is a phase to actually reflect and learn more about ourselves and try to understand what has changed and what is that maybe that behavior doesn't work in the same way. Do we need maybe something different or something to change? Yeah, I'm seeing in the chat an injury, for example, can be one of the motivation for stopping engaging with physical activity, and then we need to go back into the pre-contemplation phase and contemplation phase and try to understand what is that we need at this specific time to engage, potentially prepare to engage in a behavior again. So hopefully the 6 stages are quite clear. I just want you to now, if you can, scan the QR code that is at the top left of your screen, and in there you'll see hopefully a poll where you can tell us where do you think you're at currently in terms of these 6 stages. I won't be able to share my screen with the results, but I can read them out for you. So I'll just give you maybe 10 seconds or so, if you can, to scan the QR code and go into the poll. If you can't do that, the chat as well. I see a lot of people just writing in there where they're at, which is great as well. See a lot of relapse, which is part of the normal cycle of engaging and disengaging in certain behaviors, and as I said, understanding better what is needed. Okay. I can't see the results from the QR code, so I'm assuming that people are preferring the chat, which is perfect. And we can, I think, move on into the next slide, and then if there is any more that is coming up from the results, I'll share them as well.
So, yeah, I think now that Rachele's gone through a bit of the kind of stages of change, we can hopefully kind of have a look at sort of motivation and how that kind of links to those behaviours as well. So looking at, there's a bit of talk about the relapse, for example, in the chat, and we can have a think about, you know, how our motivation, for example, can affect us when we're at that stage. So the motivation can be explained kind of broadly through kind of two different subtypes, which are the intrinsic and extrinsic, which hopefully you can see here on the screen. So the intrinsic motivators relate to things that are inside of us and are more self-driven. So that might be just inherently enjoying an activity. Maybe we're kind of learning a different sport or skill that we want to try and master and get better at. Kind of having a real sense of purpose and maybe a goal to reach. Or we might kind of take part in an activity just to, you know, spend time with friends or kind of have something social to do as well. As you can see here, we can also have our extrinsic motivation. So these are all the different things outside of us that might encourage us to take part in any physical activity. So that might be, you know, receiving praise if people kind of want you to do that. Maybe if you're kind of engaging in sports, you might be looking at winning a different competition or something like that. So while a lot of the evidence shows that the extrinsic motivators can support us in the short term and can help to give us that initial motivation, as soon as we come against different pitfalls, so that might be kind of injury or health difficulties, or losing a sporting event, we're losing weight and it starts to kind of maintain and we're not losing that weight anymore, that's when that extrinsic motivators kind of have a lot less benefit for us. And when we come across these challenges, we're no longer getting those extrinsic awards, and as a result we can often kind of stop engaging in activity and we go back to that kind of contemplation stage. So finding different activities that really align with our internal values can help us identify, what our intrinsic motivators are that help us both engage initially with physical activity and also hopefully help us maintain that activity over time as well. So if we could just move on to the next slide, thank you. Yeah, that's great. So hopefully, as we've got again another graphic here, those different reasons for being active can look really different for each individual. So there's quite a few of us in this room, and potentially there might be a few similarities, but we could also all have kind of quite different reasons for being active or thinking about being a bit more active. And for example, we might value working as a team and want to participate in a team sport. Personally, when I've done activities, it's been individual, so maybe I can't say that would apply to me. Or we might want to go on a relaxing walk to improve our mood. So I like walking the dogs. That's for me something that improves my mood, kind of engages. There's that practical element of I have to do that as well. But again, like something like the Transplant Games events as well might be a good chance to engage with others and connect as a community. So kind of looking at that graphic there, there's a lot of different reasons there. Some of those might really resonate with us, other ones might not resonate at all. And again, I think really this may be a bit of an opportunity to just kind of reflect reflect and have a think about why it is that we think that moving is important to us. So yeah, if you have anything that you want to put in the chat around that, you're more than welcome to, or really just, think about it for yourself as well. And yeah, the more we understand kind of what's important to us and why we might want to be active, that can really help us kind of overcome any barriers that might limit our engagement. And yeah, so seeing something in there. So yeah, makes you feel more positive and proud of yourself. Yeah, I think that's a great one. I think definitely that's one that before engaging in the activity, yeah, you might have that resistance. And yeah, certainly for me, if I stop, you feel less. But then, yeah, when you start feeling more positive, team sport and camaraderie. Yeah, I'm not sure I can say that or spell it either. And yeah, absolutely. I think finding exercise and things that's right for you as well. And yeah, those health benefits there as well. And yeah, for some people, that level of activity might look very different. And yet again, about achievement with others in a group. And just, being enjoyable and fun, the physical benefits. That's great. Yeah, I'd love to see kind of more of those in the chat. And yeah, I think while anyone wants to finish off putting some ideas in the chat, I think we'll go back to Rachele, who'll kind of go on to the next slide.
Yes, thank you, Anna. So yeah, now we have reflected a bit more on what are the things that motivate you to engage with physical activity and be physically active. We would like to use another activity to help you engage with those reflective questions again. Through the QR code again, you can enter 3 answers to a question that you will see there, which is what are the barriers that you face when start being physically active or trying to stay physically active. So we're looking at both that contemplation phase potentially, or planning phase, but also maintenance. And then I'll again share in the chat. We know from research that there are multiple barriers to engaging or maintaining physical activity for the transplant community. At the top, there is the physical limitations after transplant, the fear of engaging in something new that may not be appropriate as well. There's comorbidity, and there are other aspects as well, where the facilitators can be around learning coping strategies, having goals, having the social support around, gaining those health benefits. So I'll have a look at what we have here, and I'll put it, just take a screenshot and put it in the chat. I think that should be quite quick to do, so that everyone can see the results. Okay, so it's in the chat. You can click on that. I'll read it in the meantime. So the first thing that we have there as a barrier is motivation, which is quite interesting, since we have talked a lot about motivation today. I think it'd be very interesting maybe to hear a bit more about that during our discussion time at the end. Another barrier is finding the time to exercise. Then we have up there feeling unwell, trying to be consistent. Okay, so that is more around maintaining that physical activity level and trying to find some consistency in being physically active. We have then work commitments, the sofa, the cold. Yes, injury, definitely. We know weather actually is one of the barriers that has been found in research as well. And then we have not finding results. So again, maybe related to that lack of motivation, because we're not seeing good results in that engaging in that activity. I'm seeing some more in the chat as well around motivation, commitment, the weather, the importance of having realistic goals as well. Yeah, especially in the short term, to be able to re-engage in a behavior more consistently. Mental health, of course, mental health can definitely play a big role in terms of motivation as well. Okay, we can move into the next slide to try and make sense of these barriers a bit more using a model that is called the COMBI model, which represents capability, motivation, and opportunities to change behavior. So it's a model that is used to achieve behavioral change. So the capability section looks at both the physical and the psychological capabilities. So what we think you can do physically and achieve physically, but also psychologically, do we feel like we have the ability to engage in a certain behavior, and that can impact if we actually do engage. The motivation that we talked about a lot today, and is something that came up quite strong in the barriers, according to your responses as well. And it can be both reflective in a sense of understanding why it's important for us to engage in that behavior, but also automatic in terms of what are the behaviors that can, what is the motivation that is aiding a behavior as well. And then the opportunities, both physical and social. Having, for example, if I like to start going for a walk or to keep going for a walk every day, then having a path just around the corner can be very motivating for me. I just need to put my jacket on and go out. So that physical opportunity to walk in a quiet space that is safe, but also the social opportunities. Can I go maybe with a friend? Will I meet someone out there? And that can be something that can lead to starting on maintaining a certain behavior. It's interesting that the social aspect didn't really came out in the barriers. So that is, it's interesting maybe to explore that a bit more. But we can move into the discussion prompts, and I'll pass it on to Liz for that.
Oh, I'm on. I thought I had no microphone. I was about to turn it on. Okay, so who can tell us how we can overcome barriers to physical activity? What are your ideas on that, everyone? Are we going to be speaking here? I think are we actually going into the chat now, everyone?
Yeah, I think so, Liz. Let's do that. Yeah.
I think it's easier, don't you?
Yeah.
Has anyone, Alison Bloxham, you're allowed to unmute yourself now. Come on, don't be shy, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Whose voice is that?
That was Alison. I can't find my little thing to do
that's
video.
Alison. That is Alison, yes. Well, never mind. You can remain anonymous, but we know who you are. But we would like to know how you think we can overcome barriers.
Well, I think sometimes it's about seeking
I think
guidance.
everyone. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah.
Yes, you're breaking up a tiny bit, but
okay. You might even be able to see me. I think. I don't know.
Please,
I can't see myself. Yeah, just it may be about seeking guidance on your health and physical abilities. So if you have doubts about whether you can do something physically, then seeking guidance on that from whether that be from a therapist or from a trainer or somebody who can actually guide you through the process. If you have the ability, both time-wise and financially, to be able to do that, then that can be a good way of helping overcome some of those barriers.
Well, I think for some people, definitely here where I live, it's quite difficult to identify the person that we can seek guidance from. I was sitting the other night with a nephrologist who said that he always told people to be careful that had kidney transplants. What does that mean? What does be careful mean? And
exactly.
You
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the key things is that, you know, they're told not to overexert themselves. Well, what does that mean? I mean, for one person, that might mean just going up the stairs quickly. And for somebody else, that might mean doing a marathon. And it's the same. It doesn't matter whether it's a transplantee or anybody in the general public. The advice needs to be geared towards that particular person's abilities. And so finding the right way to advise somebody very much has to be a personalised thing. There isn't a set protocol that you can sort of say is right for everybody, because it does depend on where you're starting from. And that's where getting professional guidance on that can help overcome that barrier.
Yeah, I see. I see. Willie has said something very valid here. Having like a buddy system. Doing it on your own is difficult, but having a buddy to do exercise with helps. That's true. If you do have someone, the day that you don't feel like it, the other one does feel like it. That's it always does help. But going back to seeking help, if a transplant recipient myself, I've noticed that even like a general practitioner finds me scary sometimes and refers me to my transplant center if I ask a question. So if I walked into a gym and said, oh, hello, I'm a 62-year-old transplant recipient, what exercise can I do? I think he'd tell me to go to my transplant center.
And that's one of the problems that all the transplant community experience, and that's one of the things that we are trying to address with some of the research that's being done by the some of the sports therapy team in the UK, is to look at what are the capabilities of transplantees, what are the specific advice that you can give to people about activity, so that you can actually disseminate that to professionals throughout the transplant community, or professionals who might be able to actually engage with the people in a wider sense. So being able to disseminate that information to other professionals who then might see transplantees in their workplace. You know, they may not be involved with the games, but they may come across people who've had transplants who are seeking advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did see Linda, you had your hand up, but you haven't got your hand up anymore. Did you want to say something, Linda? I didn't want you disappearing under the radar. Linda, oh yeah, you got your hand up, Linda. Randy, I can see you've got your hand up too. Linda, you did have your hand up first. Do you want to unmute yourself and add?
Yeah, sorry, I'm on my phone. I'm struggling. I can't get my video to work. Is that working?
It's fine, yes.
Right. I suppose I was just going to say that I think for me, I had really positive post-transplant cardiac rehab where we explored what you could and couldn't do. And I think sometimes now that was 10 years ago. So I think it's difficult now sometimes because you still feel a bit nervous about doing things when you probably shouldn't, because you've been told it's okay. But you still, when you start to do things like, I struggle going up hills. Hills has always been my thing. As a heart transplantee, I just really struggle. And I think as I've got further away from my transplant, it's become worse. So in my head, it's a psychological thing of thinking, oh, I just don't want to go uphill. Whereas, so like I'll try and find routes that are flat or avoid hills when I really shouldn't. I should just suck it up and actually go and just pace myself and I'll be fine. But it's just that sort of psychological thing.
Thank you, Linda. Randy, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to point out what I think has already been said, which is that there's a certain irony because we can ask patients to seek advice from transplant centers or from their post-transplant internists, but in many cases, those practitioners don't have information that's helpful and very often provide misinformation. So I think that there's a real irony here. We seek information and we always turn back to the transplant team. And yet many on the transplant team are not well informed and really incapable of providing the detailed information that patients need in that post-transplant period.
Thank you, Randy. And Yvette?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say that after I had my transplant, the first day I walked up to the corner of my block and walked back home. And then the next day I walked up to the corner and crossed the street and then came back home, and I was exhausted. But each day I added just a little bit more, walking further every day. So you just really need to don't try to start some Herculean, like don't start riding the bicycle and running up a hill or running even. You can just start just walking. It doesn't have to be like this huge physical activity. You can just start out very slow and then work your way up to whatever.
Yeah, I agree totally with you. You've got to be realistic, because otherwise it won't go well, and you will be disappointed, and you could easily give up. So I think one's goals have to be realistic, and you have to don't be too tough on yourself. If you don't go one day, that's okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with lifting 1 pound weight for like a week and then maybe go to 2 pounds, or for a month even, really, as long as you're doing, something.
I think Yvette, I quite agree with your last sentence. I was just about to say, if you're doing something, even if you manage to go up the stairs in one go rather than go up the stairs in 2 goes, or you're carrying 2 shopping bags instead of 1, it's all these little goals. One assumes that when you hear about the games that you have to go and run 100 meters in 8 seconds or something, which would never happen. But it's all about taking part, trying things, and seeing what you're capable of.
Yeah, and I was going to say about the games, if you run the 100 meter, there's nothing wrong with coming in last place, but you did it,
I'm with
exactly,
you there.
and I speak from experience.
Yes, ditto. Yeah. We had Marie, you were saying about children's physical involvement and how they can get fit, and obviously I'm not an expert in this area because I had my transplant at 19, but I should imagine there's different issues, aren't there, that if you have a sick child and then they've got to get fitter, and how that changes as they're growing. So there's another issue there. I don't know if anyone has got any experience of that and they want to share that.
I think maybe Cynthia might have something to say about that, because Cynthia is now, Cynthia, share your experiences a little bit with us. I can't hear Cynthia. Can anyone else hear Cynthia?
No, I can't. Cynthia.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Oh, okay. My headphones are not working.
Yes.
No, I was saying I had my transplant when I was 6, and we were living in Miami at the time, and obviously the just being by the beach, being in the water, I absolutely enjoyed it so much that swimming just became my thing. And I think children, just as adults, as long as you find something that they love doing, the more motivated they will be to do so. So I think there's no need to really separate children from adults. We're all the same at the end of the day. As long as we're motivated by something, we'll do it.
Thank you.
It's got to be something they like, and not say you've got to do this because.
No.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Elaine, you've got your hand up as well. I'm just desperately going through making sure that I'm addressing everybody who's got their hand up. So please chat to me if I'm missing you or you want to say something.
I can't see hands up, so you'll have to do hands up because I can't.
I'm doing hands up. There, Elaine, off you go.
Hello, Liz. Thanks both, Liz's, for managing the chat and giving me the chance. I think there are several things that have been found to be useful for maintaining an intention to be a mover, be active, play your sport, that could help overcome any perceived barriers. And one of them is to, from your own personal empowerment, obviously we've heard the possibility that the system and health professionals could give more information and could be more nuanced about that, thanks to Randall and Alison. But in and of yourself, there's things you can do to protect your own sphere of influence. So one of the things that has been said to be useful is actually to protect your plan. So obviously not make a big plan. We've heard about being realistic, but to protect your plan. So trying to think about what would thwart your intention to go for a walk at 6 p.m. each day, and try and couch that plan in some kind of contingency for what might go amiss. If someone phones you at 10 to 6 and said, would you like to go out with me? You almost kind of try and scenario build in to protect your plans and give them a little bit of nesting and encouragement. So you're not just planning in your head and you have not just got good intentions, you've actually got kind of, things that would support you if things failed and we're going to thwart your plan. The other is actually to consider, some of the research considers that we should savour our moving, no matter what it is. We should actually look to even write down what you've been experiencing, a positive reflection, maybe a wee note in a diary. So you're kind of, again, giving it priority of thought and you're savouring the positive, And the last thing is something I like to call stealth training. Rather than think we have to go somewhere particular, set aside a time, buy something particular, that what we can do is just choose to move in everyday life. So stand on one leg to brush your teeth, take the stairs instead of a lift, carry 2 bags of groceries, not one, get off the bus earlier, do that with children. So we're looking for opportunities, choice points all the time that will just help us functionally move. And for some people, that's really important to realise, and that can help overcome barrier of perceived time and so on. Anyway, that's my piece. I think I've emptied myself. I'll let anybody else take a stage. Thank you.
Thank you. I would love to hear from our presenters if they had any preconceived ideas of what these transplant recipients were going to be like pre doing this work, and then once they got to sort of be friendly with people and get to know them really. What did you think of us before and after?
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah, so my first experience was with the British Transplant Games in 2023, and it was an amazing experience. First of all, my idea was not very clear in terms of how competitive they were going to be, and what were the challenges, what was the whole context around the transplantee. And I've learned, so much in those 4 days that we were at the games, but I think one of the things that definitely stayed with me was around the social support that is there, the families that are there, the donors' families, and all that context that is there. And also something around the athletes becoming athletes after their transplant most of the times, and the fact that before their operation, they would maybe not consider themselves linked to that identity at all, and then it becomes such a big part of their identity, of their daily life, their motivation to stay involved even socially with other people. So I think, before coming into that environment, I did not expect so much transition in terms of transitioning into an identity. And yeah, I think there is so much to consider from that point of view. But yeah, I think that's my reflection in that, and how much being active can be part of a transplantee identity as well, and doesn't have to be through the games. It can be just part of the daily life.
Okay, thank you. Anna, have you got something you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, about to say, I think I'll go briefly because I feel like I'm probably going to echo a lot of that. I think maybe, I guess there was a bit of chat in today around, you know, kind of like general healthcare, and I think people's maybe like kind of reluctance or lack of ability to give kind of, you know, advice and have knowledge that's relevant to the transplant population. And I think for me, probably with Elaine, I think there was a lot of conversations around, oh, you know, like, what do I know here? What do I need to know? What's the right or wrong things? But I think actually
So we
then,
are a bit scary, aren't we?
yeah, but then I think, you know, you actually then go into that space, and I was having, you know, I was like kind of working online, so those kind of one-to-one conversations with people. And I think for me, even in that one-to-one setting, probably what again really struck me was the kind of social element and the community that everyone has. And I think that really actually didn't surprise me too much, that likes of tonight, there wasn't really too much talk in terms of kind of social barriers to activity, because there is, I think, really supportive community. And I think, you know, in terms of the work I was doing, we were talking about, you know, competitive anxiety or, you know, health and challenges to engage in activity, which, you know, I think there might be a slightly different lens, but things that everyone experiences. And I think, we can all come together to sort of maybe problem solve those barriers and see how we can, overcome those. So, I think that's my piece there.
Thank you, Anna. I knew the time was going to go so fast. Liz, what happened to the time?
I'm not quite sure, because it's suddenly 7 o'clock and we've had an hour. It is fascinating to sit here and listen to all the different questions, read the different questions. This is overriding positivity, that physical activity, whether it's, you know, at an elite level or you're just, you know, you're carrying 2 shopping bags instead of 1, is so important for your mental health. Personally, just I've been in the really low area and then try things at a high area, and both are as positive as each other. It obviously comes down to the individual as well, you know, how fit you are, what your capabilities are, your injuries or your physical demeanor. But I think the overriding thing here is that getting bouncing back ideas from people and how people support each other, and that's something we have seen at the games. You know, there is a lot of support, but also outside as well. If, for instance, when I go and do sport at a club, and, you know, it's a team sport, or I meet people for a walk or at the gym, you know, it does raise your spirits. And it's so easy to go, I can't go out because it's dark, the cat needs feeding, I need to dust the side, I need to move that chair from there, and I need to find as many excuses as possible. And it's really easy to find that. But once you break through that barrier, which isn't easy to do, you know, you do find there are many benefits. Have I missed anything else in the chat here? I'm just having a look because I don't want to know. We have the thing about Randy was saying that the transplant centers in the US do quite well in promoting physical activity. And I quite agree, Randy, you know, the transitioning from the teenagers to adult transplant is always difficult. You're not just dealing with a physical side, they are dealing with a mental side of teenagers going to adults and then rebelling or whatever. I think generally in the end, you know, they do come round. But no, I don't think that's just I think that's a problem the world over, really. Well, was with my teenagers anyway. Yes. Has anyone else got anything they'd like to add? Because I'd hate anyone to feel they haven't said anything. I'm just keeping the chat open before I thank everybody. I'll just have just in case anyone's writing here.
Looking at the prompts, I think I only did number 1, and then the others came into action just by the flow of conversation.
Yes, yes, yeah, they did indeed. I'm looking up here. Well, look, as I've said, at the beginning, thank you, Alison. Yeah, I'm going to echo Alison's comments here about thanking Elaine, Rachele, and Anna for their insights, and also yours, Alison. Thank you as a leading physio in the GB team and helping a lot of transplant athletes. It's great to have you on board tonight, so thank you very much. So I think that just leaves us, Liz, to sort of conclude the webinar, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining. A big thanks to Dr. Elaine, Dr. Rachele, and Anna. May you continue to be involved with us all, and perhaps we can have you back for a little coffee chat if people have got other questions. To everybody,
that would be lovely.
Everyone who's signed up, thank you very much. Please pass on to colleagues, friends about these webinars, and that you can obviously see the recording afterwards. Thank you to the gentlemen who are on the call as well. You'd be pleased to hear that the men's wellness is in the offing for the new year. So watch this space. We haven't forgotten about men, okay, but I think this is actually not just specific for women. This is for everybody. So please feel free to forward this info. Liz, thank you for your beautiful hosting as ever. And I shall leave the last words with you.
Well, thank you, Liz. It's been a great pleasure to be with you all tonight, and it's been fascinating. And I do think a coffee meeting would be great, and maybe even a coffee evening where we can have a little think beforehand and send him some questions of things that we'd like to discuss. I'm sure that when we say goodbye, someone's going to go, "Oh, I wish I thought of that, and I wish I thought of that." So let's put that in the diary at some time, Liz. I'm counting on you. I can't say enough thank you to the guys that came on and gave us their time. And I hope you'll continue to, well, I know Elaine certainly will, but I hope you will continue to have this interest in our community, and that you will be helping people know how to answer our questions in the future when we're not knowing who to ask. So thank you everyone who came on tonight, and all I can say now is that I wish you all a wonderful Christmas and all the very best for 2025, and I hope to see as many of you as possible in Dresden. Sending you love.